Donington Park, round 2 of the Thundersport GB Championships for 2017. It's the GB Racing Sportsman and Elite class in the 600s. We've got so many 600s that race with us at Thundersport GB, but these are the fastest of all. There is Jordan Rushby. He came into this round as the championship leader. Last year's runner-up, he won 2 races back at Brands Hatch and was second in the other. Yesterday he wasn't on the podium, but he is still in control at the moment and still very much the man to beat in terms of points overall. But there is some mighty competition here today at the Donington Park GP circuit as the lights go out and they head down towards turn 1. Number 37 with the hold shot. Well, it is Gary Johnson, of course, former British Supersport rider and a TT winner as well, no less. He's raced with us before as Gary, as someone there just takes to the grass. He is still incredibly fast at short circuit level. Oh my goodness me! Who's that that's just gone down over there at Craner Curves? Whoever it was, is that Arnie Shelton, I think it was, number 34, tried to stay on board and do what Nicky Io did last year, but Nicky Io was on a flat piece of tarmac. Arnie Shelton's going downhill on the grass, trying to hold on to that. Hopefully he's up and okay, but a bit of a hairy moment there, Sid.
It looked like the Pony Express, didn't it, of the Wild West. Unbelievable. It was a good try to hold. To be fair, he did probably save a lot of bike damage because it didn't pick up and go head over heels.
If he'd have saved that, Sid, put the checkered flag out and knight him on the spot. Yeah. That would have been some saving down through Craner Curves. Everybody that's crashed there knows just exactly what it's all about. Hopefully he's okay. Gary Johnson is then that leads. One of many TT riders, Sid, that seem to be every now and again dipping their toe in the water at Thundersport.
Yeah, I mean it's really quite nice because you know, we do get some sort of superstars, as it were, coming to Thundersport, but they don't actually get it all their own way, it has to be said. I mean, obviously Gary's doing very well here. He's a fast lad at the end of the day, but lovely to see him here, and it's good for our our championships, and it's good for our riders, I think. Yeah,
it pricks the ears up, doesn't it, of the other riders, because they see someone like Gary Johnson arriving and they're thinking, well, I tell you what a scalp to try and claim. Now then, just behind Gary Johnson is a classic example. Max Wadsworth has raised his game here this weekend. There he is in second place. In third, it's the Terrier by the looks of things. Is that Lloyd Shelley, who, well, we predicted at the end of last year when he won the pre-national 600 championship that he would be a fierce opponent in 2017 in this class. It didn't quite happen for him over at Brands Hatch, but here at a circuit he knows well, he seems to be going pretty well at. Number 19, Lloyd Shelley, the Terrier, on the accessbookings.com Triumph, trying to get on terms here with the two guys out front. So it's Gary Johnson from Max Wadsworth. There is Lloyd Shelley. Then just up behind them is number 47 there, and that is William White. Sorry, I couldn't quite recognise him initially because he's changed his colour scheme. Of course, William White, notorious for being in that sort of yellow machine, and he's changed his colour scheme for this weekend.
Changed his sponsor, maybe.
Maybe. Has he changed his bike? I'm going to get a look at that in a moment. Of course, he's always run Triumphs with Thundersport so far. He's racing with Jordan Rushby. There they are. We'll get a good look at that as they head down into turn 1 in just a moment or two. But it is Gary Johnson that leads on that GTR Motorsports Triumph. There is William White. No, he's still out there on a Triumph. It's just in a different colour scheme. A bit further back there, 808 is Robert Vary or Vari on the Colin Sanderson Racing Yamaha. I'll let Sid decide whether it's Vary or Vari.
Well, I call him Vary, so he hasn't slapped me.
It varies from time to time. But Robert Vary is there then. Zach Corduroy is back with us. A couple of names, in fact, that are back with us in the thick of it here. A former 600 and GP1 champion, Curtis Wright, number 74. Welcome back to Curtis. Let's not forget, of course, Curtis was on a Triumph back in the day, as quick as anyone on a 600. So he's out there, and Zach Corduroy on his Kawasaki as well. So number 22, the Aprilia RRV 450 champion of 2017. There he is, yellow bike. So into the Foggy S as we go. Danny Booth is in there as well. Former 450 contender, number 64 on the DB Racing Yamaha, as Jordan Rushby gets it all wrong going into the Melbourne Loop. Blimey, he's lost what, 3, 4, maybe even 5 places there, the championship leader. We now ride with Brendan Malander as he tips it into the Goddard's hairpin. Just underneath him went Robert Very there. Brendan Malander, though, has taken a step up. He's going very, very well here in this race. Max Wadsworth trying to chase down Gary Johnson. I have to say, Sid, I'm really impressed with Max Wadsworth here. Gary Johnson is no slouch. Max Wadsworth is keeping him very honest.
Max is another one who's taken a step up again this year. Really looks settled. Seems to have got his head in place. Everything seems to be lovely and rosy in the garden. So fingers crossed for him. I mean, he really wanted to win this year. It's a long, long road. And I think he was probably a bit disappointed with Brands Hatch, but we'll keep an eye on him.
There he is, he's just gone up underneath Gary Johnson, so Max Wadsworth now leads here at Donington Park. What a victory this would be if he's able to beat Gary Johnson. There's nobody else close behind him as we look further down the field here. That's last year's, well, it's double Golden Era Superbike champion John Dieterman, just finding life in the Sportsman Elite 600 class a little tough at the moment. Max Wadsworth leads then from Gary Johnson. Max Wadsworth out there on that Specialized Group Kawasaki, number 72, rider from Halifax. And Gary Johnson out there on the number 37, which I would imagine he's a late entry, because actually if you look into the race programme, there's a completely different name entered under the number 37. Oh dear, that's Jordan Rushby, and he looks hurt. Jordan Rushby's gone down on the exit of the Melbourne Loop. Oh, it's good to see that he was moving there, because that looks like he's gone down with a good hard smack. Max Wadsworth it is that leads at the moment from Gary Johnson, but that it could be really big in terms of the championship. I hope he's all right, but Jordan Rushby is down and out of this race. There further back is number 62, Nick Edgley. He's just making up a place. He is doing very well in this race as well. He's well inside the points. But now we focus again on Gary Johnson trying to find a way past Max Wadsworth. Further down. Oh, blimey. That's Ashley Milburn, number 65, almost wiping himself and another competitor out down at the old hairpin, but manages to stay upright, as we see there William White, number 47, and the Castrol colours of number 74, the former double champion Curtis Wright. Onto the back straight we go. Two leaders, still Wadsworth from Johnson. Third for William White. Fourth for Curtis Wright. Sixth for Zach Corduroy. Into the foggy S's. So, no Jordan Rushby scoring points then in this race. William White could just take charge of things here. He was second in the championship coming into Donington. The marshals have done very well to clear that incident up. There was a bit of debris down over there as well.
Our boys don't mess about, do they?
They certainly do not. There's Curtis Wright. Number of X450 riders that have moved up onto 600 side by side on the start finish straight there. Gary Johnson has a quick cheeky look over at Max Wadsworth and moves into the lead again.
Hi, how are you doing?
Johnson, you know, he's come here to get some laps under his belt, but he's a racer by heart. He won't want to be beaten here.
Yeah, Max has taken it to him, hasn't he?
Here is Brendan Malander, rider from Rotherham, on that Yamaha. And there is the number 72 of Max Wadsworth. Wadsworth has been in the hunt for race wins in the past, but hasn't as yet with Thundersport been able to mount what you could call a serious championship challenge as yet. Maybe this year could be his year.
Well, I did an interview with him last year, and he's got quite a steeped history in racing in foreign parts with some probably now what you might deem as famous riders. I think it all was a little bit too much too soon for him, and this is why him and his dad Dave are rather enjoying the Thundersport GB experience.
Well, good on him. And he is mixing it with the best at the moment at the front of this one. These guys can't even keep up, and let's be honest, this battle for third features some fast riders. They're all side by side. Curtis Wright there, number 74, up ahead of Zach Corduroy, then William White, then number 808 Robert Very, and then Danny Booth. Now Danny Booth at the back of that group is lapping quicker than all of them, and Ashley Milburn, well, it's been coming. Unfortunately, Ashley, he was given a warning, wasn't he, a little while ago. He's up and he walks away. That's the end of his race, I'm afraid. Ashley Milburn, who was third in the Sportsman race yesterday. By the way, Lloyd Shelley was the winner of that yesterday. And what's happened to Lloyd, he fell back through the pack, having got off to a good start in this race. He's just faded a bit. See what happens at the end of the race then. Further back through the pack, there is number 46. Always easy to pick out a number 46, isn't it? There is Ross Walker from Lincoln.
The old terrier, he's a funny lad though, and he's either on it or he's not on it. It's that simple. He's one of the old-fashioned win or bins we sort of know and love, isn't he?
It might not take long for Lloyd Shelley though, just to really start becoming a serious threat. He's obviously not got a race win at this level just yet, but well, also in damp conditions last year he was exceptional. This is the battle for third place. Danny Booth in the background there, just making up a place. William White has fallen to the back of this pack now. There you go, there's a commentary curse for you. I was just talking about him picking up the spoils for the championship, and he's dropped, what, 3 places? Zach Corduroy is in third now, ahead of Curtis Wright and Robert Very. Then we have Danny Booth and William White.
Isn't it nice to see a variety of manufacturers there though, having a proper battle, you know? I mean, it's really nice.
Yeah, always good in the 600s, isn't it? I mean, most of those 600s these days, the different manufacturers, if you get a good one, then it's going to be pretty competitive. And well, the Triumphs obviously are doing very well at this moment in time, as Danny Booth goes up the inside there of William White and just loses out again. Who will get third? It looks like the win's going to be between Wadsworth and Johnson. There is Alex Lorries, number 48, last year's freshman champion.
Makes you wonder, you know, if that Triumph 675 won't start to be worth some money, because, I mean, they've stopped making that now, haven't they? And they've brought out a kind of a 775, sort of 800 type bike. And because they think that 600s are all over, which I can tell you they aren't all over, because we've got 152 of them.
Someone's gone down there, Sid. Who's that's just gone down over at Coppice Corner?
I don't know.
Now, is that... Wow, that might be one of the tail enders actually. I can't be 100% sure, because everyone from the leading pack has just gone through. Not sure who that is. Someone's gone down, as you see Curtis Wright here up the inside of Zach Corduroy. Well, if the Triumphs continue to be competitive at this level, then you just never know. Gary Johnson's certainly flying the flag for them at this moment in time.
Well, one of the reasons that a lot of riders like them is the way they develop the power. Being a 3-cylinder, they're torquey, but they do rev nice and strongly as well. They just seem to be a really good package, which is why it's kind of surprised me that they haven't come into their own at World Supersport level, really.
Well, they had their moments at times, the World Supersport Triumphs. So remember Chaz Davies, when he first came back from America, that's what he was out there racing on, was Triumph at World Supersport level. But they never were able to properly dominate at that particular level. Alex Baldalini, I recall finishing on the podium a few times with the Triumph at World Supersport level.
Maybe they just couldn't get the support at that level, you know, the financial support or factory support, I don't really know.
I remember when they first came properly back into British Supersport in 2003 with old Craig Jones and Jim Moody.
Of course, yes.
And Jack Valentine running them.
The late great Craig Jones.
From there on in, Triumphs have been a sort of a big part of British Championship racing. It looks like Gary Johnson's got this one sewn up now. He leads from Max Wadsworth, but it'll be a brilliant second place for Max. Who's going to get third though? Danny Booth has now got to the front of this pack. He's up ahead of Curtis Wright and William White. Zach Corduroy's now the one that's fallen back a bit as the last lap flag is held out.
This is where it all goes wrong in that little gaggle. Everybody last lap, and they all sort of have a brainstorm, don't they?
Well, there's quite a bit on offer here. Look, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. There's 16 points for 3rd as Danny Booth goes through, and there's 9 points available for 7th. And of course there's a trophy and a place on the podium up for grabs as well. Of those guys, I'm just going to have a look through them. Robert Very is the only Sportsman rider, so if he stays upright, Very, in fact, he's just fallen away from this pack. I think he probably thinks now, I'll leave these guys to it. I'll take my Sportsman win. But the rest, of course, are all elite riders. There's Nick Edgley, just up ahead of number 28, Dan Parker, who's another of our Sportsman riders. Matty Whelan is the other, who at the moment is just fighting with Curtis Drew for a top 10 finish. He will get himself a Sportsman podium as well, but looks like Gary Johnson here probably won't put a foot wrong. Breaking into the Melbourne Loop then. Well, he was kept honest at times. Max Wadsworth had a good go at it. Who's going to get 3rd? It is at the moment Danny Booth. He's had a really strong and solid final lap. Curtis Wright there as well. Zach Corduroy and William White side by side on the exit there, but the checkered flag goes out. Gary Johnson is the winner here in race 1 in the GB Racing Sportsman Elite. 2nd place for Max Wadsworth, and it will be 3rd for Danny Booth, 4th for Curtis Wright, 5th for Zach Corduroy, and 6th for William White. So that really does make things quite interesting in the championship. We of course send our best regards to Jordan Rushby, but that crash looked bad enough for us to be rather concerned as to whether he'll make it out for race 2. We'll have more info in just a moment. There's confirmation of the standings in that race. Top 3, Gary Johnson, Max Wadsworth, Danny Booth, and in the Sportsman category, finishing 7th, 9th and 11th respectively, were Very, Whelan and Parker. That's it for race 1. We'll be back with you and race 2 in just a couple of minutes. Time for race 2 then, the GB Racing Sportsman Elite 600 as the field make their way onto the grid. Now, race 1 winner Gary Johnson hasn't lined up and hasn't made it out onto the grid for the start of this race, but there's even more drama to add to that as you look there at William White and Lloyd Shelley, because Jordan Rushby, who crashed out of race 1, did make it onto the grid, but he and Max Wadsworth were involved in a warm-up lap crash. Now, we're more on that in a moment. So it means that William White and the rest of the field here have a big chance to pick up some massive points. Going into turn 1, William White will get the whole shot from Curtis Wright. Lloyd Shelley 3rd, Danny Booth in 4th. Sid, we mentioned it in other races that we've covered here at Donington Park. Never seen so many crashes on warm-up laps, but this wasn't just any old crash. Jordan Rushby and Max Wadsworth involved in a heavy one on the warm-up lap here.
Yeah, monumental crash, as Craner curves often are. Cold left-hand side of the tyre, bang bang, went down in synchro it seems, but they are both okay. Jordan's gone to hospital to be checked out, but you know, the large good news is that they're both okay.
Well, that is the good news, definitely. Jordan Rushby then was the championship leader coming into Donington. Will it stay that way? This has been a round to forget, hasn't it, for the series leader. Max Wadsworth was excellent in race 1. He's not here. Gary Johnson, well, we've just heard that he's made it out of pit lane. He turned up late. He's made it out and had a pit lane start, so we'll probably see him somewhere near the back of the field. At the front of this one, it's Curtis Wright, former champion. Lloyd Shelley, the Terrier, last year's pre-national 600 champion with a really ambitious move up the inside of 2 or 3 bikes into the Melbourne Loop, but he made it stick. And so we have triumphs 1 and 2 and 3, because William White is there in 3rd place. Across the line we go, so opportunity knocks here for 1 or 2 riders when it comes to picking themselves up their first race win of 2017. There's Danny Booth, aggressive from the start, as we look a bit further back to Brendan Mallender. Well, it has to be said that we saw in GP1, there's been riders that have gone well at one round and then struggled at another, whether it's mechanical reasons, and now in the Sportsman Elite 600 class as well, as William White goes up underneath Lloyd Shelley into the old hairpin, we're now seeing some rather large pieces of drama thrown in as well.
You can always gonna get some drama with the terrier, aren't you? Lloyd, he's a funny lad. I mean, he does, when he's on form, he'll really push it. By the way, I've just heard that Gary Johnson has indeed pulled in with a mechanical problem.
Blimey, well that's a really good way to start. Miss the race, do a pit lane start, and then well, we understand the clutch is gone, something along those lines. So Gary Johnson will not be playing any further part in this one. So this is what you get. Lloyd Shelley, last year's pre-national 600 champion, we called it earlier on, has now got to the front of that second pack. He's in second ahead of William White and number 808 there, Robert Very, who I have to say is really impressing me here at Donington Park. At the front though, it is Curtis Wright. Curtis Wright started with Thundersport in the very first year, maybe the second year, in the 125 GP category. He was racing at the time against the likes of Fraser Rogers and Sam Hornsey for that championship. Then he moved on to a Triumph. It took him a couple of years to get going, and he was involved in a brilliant scrap for the 600 title with Adam Shelton, which came down to the last round here. At the time it was at Donington Park, which eventually he won. He then went on to the 1000cc category and was absolutely excellent, winning that championship as well. And last year it didn't quite go to plan for him. He had a few injuries, didn't maybe quite have the right package, so he's obviously gone back to basics here, Curtis Wright, and he's back on a bike he knows very well, having some fun on a Triumph. Lovely guy, Curtis Wright, one of the most polite, friendly guys you could ever wish to meet off a circuit, but I tell you what, he has got plenty of fight on it, as we see another former Thundersport champion there further back, John Dieterman. This is the battle for second you're looking at. The white Triumph at the front of this is Lloyd Shelley, then it is Robert Very, 47 is William White, Danny Booth is then next with the sort of black and green trim, number 64, sorry. Then it's in the yellow there, just making up a place or two because Very goes wide, is Zach Corduroy, another Thundersport champion, and Brendan Mallender. Brendan Mallender has not been as close to the sharp end as this at the Sportsman Elite level, so it's a fair effort from the Rotherham rider. He was of course fighting inside the top 3, fighting for the pre-national 600 championship a couple of years ago, but he's looking in good shape here.
Well, you're forced to step up, you know, after a while. You know, you can't stay in the pre-national, but this is a tough class, Steve, and not everybody makes the cut. But I think he's doing really well, and I think once he settles in, and this, I mean, this is so close, isn't it?
It is close. It's good racing, really good racing. And here you can see a bit further back Ashley Milburn. Number 7 there is Ryan Varley. But it is still Curtis Wright that has the advantage at the front. Lloyd Shelley in second place, trying to now break away from the rest of the pack. Robert Very is number 808. 22 is Zach Corduroy, just up the inside of William White. William White could do with some points in this race, with Jordan Rushby not going to be scoring any, and likewise a few others as well. Max Wadsworth. Could William White here end up leaving Donington Park as the championship leader, courtesy of some big consistency? Massive pack here heading down into the hairpin, and you can see there a bundle of 7 or 8 riders who are battling for the final points in this race. You've got the likes of Alex Lawries, one of our Sportsman riders, Nick Edgley, Dan Parker, Ryan Cooper, Ryan Varley, Lewis Barnes, Ben Watton, Sam Holm, Ashley Milburn, Matt Dawes, Dan Stewart. Oh dear, what's happened there? Into turn 1. Rider going straight on. Might get the number at the moment. Is that number 25? Matt Whelan? I think it might be. It was Matty Whelan on his MV. It's gone straight into red gate corner there. He might just be able to rejoin though. He kept the bike running. Curtis Wright still leads this one. Now it's Varley in second. Very sorry, I'll get that right by the end of the season. In second place. Where has Robert Very come from? Preston rider, Colin Sanderson Racing. Heard his name too much, but he's obviously got the pace. There's Ben Watton further back, another of the former pre-national 600 riders that has been forced to make the move up into this daunting class. But Lloyd Shelley going much better here in this race than what we've seen of him so far at the start of the season. Maybe just starting to get to grips with things. He is known as the Terrier because of his riding style. Does not mind getting stuck in.
Well, they never let go, do terriers, do they? They get hold of your trouser leg and keep tearing at it, and they just don't let go. But the funniest thing is, they're only like a few tenths off the previous race times, so it's not like that they're going any slower. And because Gary Johnson, Max Wadsworth and Jordan Raspy are out, he's not fallen into this, the front end the same as the other guys. They are very fast at the moment.
There is number 38. That is Stephen Proctor from Wakefield. No, he's there through merit, Lloyd Shelley. And he's
that was the word I was looking for, Steve. Thank you.
It's okay. As old age comes to us all.
Yeah. Well, when you were going on about all that stuff about Curtis Wright, I thought, God, he can remember a lot of stuff. I can barely remember what I had for breakfast.
You mentioned the word terrier and the fact that they get hold of your trousers and won't let go. Does that make you a terrier back in the day when you were selling cars? Because you did something similar to all your customers.
All right, Steve, thank you.
Into Foggy S's there. A bit of a mistake from Zach Corduroy, and so he's lost a couple of places. Is it my eye, Sid? I don't know why I'm asking you, of course, but... Or are these guys starting to pull in? Curtis Wright out front. He's been leading this for a while now. Is he just falling into the clutches of the leading group? Slowly but surely.
They're close, but they're not tripping each other up, are they? So you could well be right. They are catching him, aren't they?
We'll get a better look at this as they head down through the old hairpin, of course, because we'll be able to see just how close it is. Whether or not they've closed that gap down. Let's have a look. This is the second place man, Lloyd Shelley. There is Danny Booth and 47 William White, 22 Zach Corduroy, number 6 Brendan Mallender. Let's get a glimpse of 74 Curtis Wright, your race leader. Further back through the pack, there is this battle for sort of the last points, if you like. Just see Ryan Varley, number 7. Lewis Barnes is a bit further ahead of these guys. Ben Watton, Sam Holm. All former pre-national 600 riders from last year. There is Varley, number 7, on the JAB Racing Honda. Now, back to the sharp end. Still Luke Shelley in second place. There's your race leader, Curtis Wright. Yeah, that gap's come down. They are closing. Each sector they go through, they're about a couple of tenths up. And with the time that's left in this race, there is time for Curtis Wright to be caught here. Just wonder if Curtis, here he is, Castrol colours on his Triumph, has got a pit board or not. As they head down the start-finish straight. And into, well, there's plenty of pit boards being hung out there. Surely one of them is for Curtis Wright. Because again, as they go across the line there, Lloyd Shelley. Well, Lloyd Shelley is the only rider at the moment in the 135s. So he is the one to look out for, number 19. Here he is in second place. Slightly different line he takes to one or two other riders. As he just loses out there on second place to Robert Very. He comes straight back again, Lloyd Shelley, into McLean's. Of course, if both Lloyd Shelley and Very really start punching each other there for second place, then it will help Curtis Wright, but they are getting closer and closer now.
Well, although you've got to be a bit of a nutter to race 600s in the first place, Curtis is a fairly sensible lad, and having had a disastrous brands with electronic problems, he'll know full well that it's folly to try and race at stupid lap times in this kind of temperature. And the last thing he wants to do is dump it, injure himself like he did last year and put himself out. So he probably does know, but I don't know, it's awkward really. It's awkward to know what's in his mind, but it is now the last lap.
That is a brilliant lap from Lloyd Shelley. He's now got himself within, what, a couple of tenths of Curtis Wright out front. Of course, Curtis Wright will be relieved to see the last lap flag, because the problem is it's not just one bike that's caught him, it's the whole pack. Yellow flag stationary through Craners, but it doesn't matter now, it's been withdrawn. Where will Curtis Wright come under pressure, or will he? Is he going to be able to put in a decent lap himself? You've got to believe here Lloyd Shelley's going to pounce somewhere, and it could be coming up McLean's, because he's closing in here, Lloyd Shelley. Up the hill, we tip right. There's one overtaking opportunity gone then. Curtis Wright at the moment still your race leader, the former champion, the pre-national 600 champion, just up behind him. Now he's going to try and get on the power as early as possible. Can he get in the slipstream down the back straight? Maybe launch an attack up the inside going into the Foggy S's. Here he comes. Pulls up alongside him, and Lloyd Shelley will make his move now. Curtis Wright, who has led from the moment the lights went out, has now been ditched to second place, and Robert Very is there to try and close as well. He's late on the brakes, is Lloyd Shelley. Curtis Wright, it nearly goes all wrong for him. Very tries to find a way through. He's trying to pull up alongside, but I think that might just be it, unless Very goes for an audacious move up the inside into Goddard's. Brilliant final few laps from Lloyd Shelley, and he's only gone and done it. The last champion from pre-nationals has got his first win in the Sportsman Elite 600 class, and he thoroughly deserves it as well. The Terrier is back to winning ways and back to his best. He beats the former Sportsman Elite 600 champion, and he is celebrating like he is the heavyweight boxing champion of the world. He wins ahead of Curtis Wright, with Robert Very, the winner of the Sportsman class, in third. Danny Boove was fourth, Zach Corduroy fifth, and William White in sixth. Top three there then. Lloyd Shelley, Robert Very and Alex Lawries in the Sportsman class, because Lloyd Shelley of course is a Sportsman rider. Curtis Wright, Danny Booth, Zach Corduroy in the Elites. Now then, Championship, there you go. Jordan Rushby, a costly day at the office for him here at Donington. William White is the series leader, 10 clear of Rushby, but Wadsworth, Johnson, Mallender and Shelley are not that far behind. In the Sportsman 600 class, that win for Lloyd Shelley now lifts him up into second place overall. And he's just a couple there behind Alex Lawries, last year's freshman champion. That's it from us here at Donington Park. We will return to this circuit later in the year, but next for us, round 3 at Snetterton. We'll see you then.